Hi, and welcome to this Power of Journaling workshop. I really hope that you enjoy it. Now, we need a few things to get started. You need something to scribble on, something to scribble with, and it would be a good idea if you've got a timer of some sort. So use your mobile phone and the timer on there. And I'm going to suggest amount of time for each of the different exercises. So without further ado, let's get started. So if you need to go and do any of those bits and pieces, pause the video and come back, maybe get some water, whatever else you need to do, but you definitely need something to write on. So let me share my screen and let's get the show started, as they say. So this is called The Power of Journaling, and it's for anybody, no matter what stage of journaling you're at. So you may be somebody who says, there's absolutely no way on this earth I could possibly journal. Well, I'm going to show you some ways you can. And, right up to those people that journal quite a lot. And I'm going to give you some different ways of perhaps looking at your journaling. So who am I? I'm Dale, obviously. I have what's called fame name, which is the word alchemist. I think I've had that since about 2013. I live in Spain with the two dogs that you see here, but I recently, about 11 weeks ago, I went to a shelter with one of my friends and she wanted to foster some dogs. And I came home with a very old dog. He's 11 and a half. He's called Tommy, got one ear. He's absolutely beautiful. He was part of a shelter that was closed down by animal welfare. And poor little thing, he'd been in the shelter since he was 6 weeks old. So all his life in a shelter, and he's come home to live with me and Angel and Marley, and he's absolutely beautiful. So I'm a writer and also a coach. I have a number of different kinds of books, ebooks, courses, programs, all sorts of things. And I am the founder of something called the Healing Book Project. And this is a sanctuary for people who want to heal their stories and do that through my Writing to Heal process. The project is then designed so that there'll come a point that you potentially want to write a book. And so what we'll do is look at how we use our journal to write a book. And this workshop also covers some of that. So here are some of my books. You can find them on my website. And I have a number of courses that you can enroll on. So Kickstart Your Memoir. There's 10 days of prompts and ideas and stuff around your memoir and structure on how to write it. You'll probably take more than 10 days because once you start writing, more things come up and more things come up, but that's going to help get you started. Find your transformational journal idea. So this is about finding the theme and thinking about who your journal might be for. So this is the kind of book that you would write if you didn't want to put your story in, but you wanted to base it on your story. And then anyone who has never journaled in their entire life, we have the introduction to journaling, and that's going to get you started. But I hope this is going to get you started. So I always advise that you get a brand new, fresh, beautiful journal that you want to work with. So this journal I use for demonstration purposes, and I'm going to explain why I would never write in it. So first of all, it's got lines. I hate writing in lines. It's got lines in it, and the lines are really tiny. So this was a gift of somebody. I can't write in it. My favorite journals are from a company called Stationery Island. They're bullet journals. They're A5, nice soft covers, lovely paper inside, and lots of little faint dots. And I just find that an easier way for me to just write. The other thing is finding the right journal, but also finding the right pen. And I find that this always amuses me. I have some very beautiful pens that I write with, but I was in Lidl years and years and years ago, and I bought a pack of Bic pens. It's so nice to write with. So, there's nothing special about anything. Just find something that works for you. And also, it's about finding something that makes you feel safe to write in. When you start writing, you'll understand that. Now, there are software journals. You can, get apps on your phone and stuff like that. I don't like them, doesn't work for me. I do record stuff on my phone when I'm out walking, but for me, the art of journaling is taking what's in here via this to the paper, because it is so incredibly powerful. This is so important. So you may well have started and tried to journal, and someone says, well, you've got to do it like this, and you've got to do that. There actually are no rules. You just do it your way. So it's pen, paper, right environment, and just that desire to write and let go. So I want you to think a little bit about, do you want to do it in the morning or the night or both? Where? What do you need? Lighting, sound, smells. So I write in bed, mostly at night when I've done everything. I've got a small lamp on, got a bottle of water by my side. I've usually got a number of dogs on my bed, one of them that you may be able to hear snoring through this video, snores very loudly on my bed. So I like silence. I've kind of got used to Miley, so that's okay. But you've got to find the right way for you. So I mostly write at night. When I write in the morning, it's usually when I've written a question in my journal. I want to sleep on it, and then I'll write in the morning, but still in bed. So what we need to do is get rid of all the rubbish of the day, do all the mundane tasks, go to the bathroom, clean your teeth, if you like to drink tea in bed or have a bottle of water, or you want to put the washing on or whatever it is, just do all the stuff and then create what I call a sacred space. My bedroom is my safe, sacred space for me to write. You might have a den, you might have a conservatory or a summer room. For me, I'm always in my pajamas. I was saying on a previous workshop that I feel comfortable in my pajamas. I couldn't imagine journaling naked. But if that's your bag, journal naked. But you've got to do what's right for you, and it's got to be comfortable, and you feel safe. And it's just you just settle in and you go, it's writing time. So again, just a couple of tips, write quickly and spontaneously. We've got to learn to switch this off and just write. And I'll talk about some ways of doing that. Be kind to yourself and let that muse find you. When you get into a good space, maybe you need to do some breathing exercises, hold a crystal, put your hands to your heart before you start, whatever that might be. Once you've done that, let that muse in and write. No judgment, just write. So let's get started. So this is the interactive part of the session. And this is where I'm going to suggest, you need your journal, you need your pen. And if you've got a phone with a timer on, all of these exercises, I'm going to suggest you do them for 2 minutes. So it really is just to get you started. This section is all about understanding how you feel about the writing process. So I'm not going to do a timer. What you need to do is pause the video and set your own timer. And if you like to have music or other things going on, do that. Have a sip of water before you start writing. But each of these are for 2 minutes. So these are the things, the exercises that we are going to do. I'm going to start with this one, freestyle. Now, I wouldn't normally suggest that anybody just walks into a journaling class and starts writing about any old thing. But this is all about, can you start? Do you trust yourself? Will you let the muse find you, or will you just stare at the blank page? It absolutely doesn't matter what happens. The point is, my invitation is set that timer, write about anything, write about your day, write about your dog, your cat, your budgie, write about work, your cup of tea, it doesn't matter. The idea is my invitation is you simply put your pen on that piece of paper, write for 2 minutes. So I'm going to move on, but if you pause the video and then come on to the next slide in 2 minutes. Okay, so this exercise, I really, really like this exercise. When anybody ever says to me, I can't journal, I don't have any time, it's not for me, this is something that I suggest. But I also suggest it because it is a great writing exercise. Now, the way that I would suggest that we normally do this, and then I'm going to talk about what I'd like you to do now, is to write one word in the morning, any word that comes, just when you wake up, just write a word. You know, if the word banana or crystal or cross or whatever just comes up, just write it. It truly doesn't matter. Don't judge it. Just write the one word. Then go about your day, do whatever you need to do. And then in the evening, come back, breathe, ground, and open up your journal and look at the word and write about what comes up. Now, what is curious about this? So let's say you had the word cross. Now, it might be that you're feeling cross, angry or whatever, or you might feel that you've got a heavy burden, a cross to bear, or it might be that it reminds you of something from the past. Now, very curiously, the reason I chose the word cross is very curiously, I did what's called a not working session, which is like networking the other day, and you had to go and find something from your childhood. And I thought, I have moved so many times. And then I remembered when I was 13, there was a guy called Andrew. I think his name was Andrew. He was in the Navy and he quite liked myself and my friend Debbie. And he bought us a present each and they were a cross. And it's just been sat on my desk. It's absolutely lovely. It says the word love in it. And I kept it all these years because it's absolutely wonderful. So imagine if this were me, I might wake up and write the word cross, and then I'm reminded of an old memento. And when I go to bed at night, I could write about that lovely memory. Now, what do I mean by breathe and ground? Ground, whenever I say imagine, it could be that you see it, you feel it, you sense it, you know it. Not everyone is visual. But I'm going to use the word imagine. Imagine there's roots growing from the bottom of your feet, deep into the core of Mother Earth. Breathe a lovely energy in. Just breathe. And we're just bringing ourselves into a space of mindfulness, ready to write. Okay, so that's the long version of how you would do that during the day. My invitation right here, right now is write a single word, ground, breathe, set your timer for 2 minutes and write about what comes up. In this exercise, we're going to look at mind mapping. So you might look at that and think, well, a mind map's not a journal. Well, actually it is, because I'm going to explain how this is going to work for you. So a mind map, you have a central idea, and then you just mind map the various different words that are associated with that word. And so with this mind map, my invitation is think about something that's going on. Might be something good, not so good, just any word, the first word that comes into your head. And then put on your timer and just mind map as many words in that 2 minutes that you can think of. When the 2 minutes is finished, now what I'm going to suggest that you do with this particular exercise is that you leave it for the rest of the day and then come back to it. Look at the mind map. Again, just put your timer on for 2 minutes and write about what that represents to you. What does that tell you? Now, what I find interesting about mind maps is that I could mind map something, go for a walk. By the time I come back, I have an answer and I can scribble it down. So this is trust the process. So a mind map might not seem like a journaling exercise, but it's later on in the reflection that you are journaling what comes up. So set your timer for 2 minutes and mind map to your heart's content. This exercise is about mind maps, but it's doing it in a slightly different way. And my invitation here is that you pop a word in the middle. I've written the word happy. If you can't think of a word, go with the word happy. And what you do is you can only, when I say there's no rules, there's a few rules. So you can only write 5 words that go with the central point. Again, take some time out. And that might be that you sit and breathe. You might want to spend the day just letting your unconscious mind tell you something. But if you want to do this straight away, again, set your timer for 2 minutes. So you put the central word in and you do 5 words that go with it. Now you could, if you want, take each of the 5 points and do 5 more and 5 more. But for this exercise, it's just do word in the middle, 5 words. And then when you've taken a breather, sit and look at your mind map and use every single word that is in your mind map. So if in your mind map you've got happy and you've got me, here, time, purpose, process, you would take all of those words and you would write maybe a sentence, a paragraph, and I bet you any money that in writing and using all those words, whatever it is that's on your mind, there will be some kind of answer. So this is a lovely, lovely exercise for finding the answer to things that maybe you didn't know you needed to know. So have a go at that. Set the timer for 2 minutes and then we can move on. In this exercise, this is very much about when you're feeling stuck. So you've got your journal, you're looking at it and you're going, I really want to write something, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to express myself, but there's something going on. And I've written here, someone has been unkind. So if you wanted to use that as your prompt, so let's imagine something has happened, someone's been unkind, you feel that it's misplaced, it's unjustified, and you want to write about how you feel and you don't know how to start. Now you can use this in any form or fashion or way you start, but you start to write what I call the mundane. So the mundane is, I got up this morning, I had a cup of tea, and then I decided I fancied a biscuit. So I trotted downstairs and I opened up a brand new packet of my favourite ginger biscuits and I brought them upstairs and I didn't intend to eat all 5, but I did. That's the mundane. That's absolutely like the boring part of life. But what happens is the more you write the mundane, all of a sudden, and your writing style might change, anything might happen. All of a sudden, you because you have started writing, the magic appears. I promise, I promise, I promise this absolutely works. This is quite a fantastic way of just getting stuff. And, if you're writing a chapter of a book, for example, just start writing rubbish and then the rest of it will flow. So set your timer for 2 minutes, pick anything. If you can't think of something, think about someone who has any time if your life has been unkind to you. Write about how you feel. Start with the mundane. Got up this morning, had a cup of tea, coffee, whatever it is that you do, and then just reflect on what comes up and how that process works for you. So something that we always associate with journaling is journaling prompts. I have books and books and books and books on journaling prompts, and they are super useful. So the prompt that I've got here for you is, what do you want to create? So for me, when I'm recording this, it is the beginning of June. On my whiteboard over there, it says, what does success look like in June? And every month I put things on there that are achievable. I don't look and go, what's my, great big hairy audacious goal? I just think, what am I going to be able to achieve? What is going to make me feel like I've achieved something and that makes me feel successful? Because I don't want to write a whole pile of stuff on there and then end up going, well, I didn't achieve it, and failure and doom and gloom. But alongside what does success look like, my next question to myself is, what do I want to create? And that can be anything. It could be life, family, business, work, whatever aspect of your life that you want. Now, you can write a single word. You could mind map this. You could start writing. If you can't think of anything, start writing the mundane, I made a cup of tea, blah, blah, blah. You can work with this prompt in any way that you want, and you can keep coming back to it. So you could write a little list. You might do a little mind map. You might write reams and reams and reams. You might think, what does my perfect day look like? So the invitation is, again, set the timer for 2 minutes and write the prompt at the top of the piece of paper. What do I want to create? So we've reached the end of what I call the interactive session, and I'm going to talk a little bit about mandalas. Mandalas are incredible for mindfulness, for calming us down, for getting us into a great space and finding insights. So in the workbook that I provide with the journaling workshop, there is a mandala for you to colour in, and it's just for you to have a little go. I absolutely love mandalas. I created this little book here, the Gratitude Habit, 30 Days of Gratitude Journaling. And the way that it works is you get a small mandala, and I call this the 5-minute mandala. Now, I'm the kind of person that I like to take little breaks. I've tried colouring in large mandalas, and what I find is I have to do them in sections. So if you're anything like me, a small mandala that you would do over maybe 5 or 10 minutes, it just gets you out of your head of what you're doing now. But the way that this one works is, so this gratitude journal, this particular page I picked, the best advice I've received that I am grateful for this week is, people love to offer advice, and when it comes from the heart, it's something to be appreciated for the gift that it brings. And then there's just a little bit about that piece of gratitude prompt, and then there's some tips. So you read that, then you colour in your mandala, and then there's space for a mind map, and then you leave it and you come back and journal later on. So the mandalas in here bring together all of the kind of ways that I talk about journaling. So you can get that book on Amazon, and that will, if you love journaling and you want to build yourself a gratitude habit, that's absolutely a perfect way of doing it. We're going to move into next writing exercises, and you will do the writing exercises and the rest of the things that I'm going to show you with the workbook that you get. However, what you can do is set your timer. So on this particular writing exercise that's broken down into 3, I'm going to suggest about 20 minutes. Go and, go and do lots of stuff that you need to do, get it all out of the way, and come back to this. So there's 3 things. Lessons learned. So reflect on a past challenge. Think about all the key lessons, any gifts, whatever it's taught you. Just sit and write. And remember, if you find it difficult to get started, start with the mundane and get in there. You could mind map and all sorts of things, but write about a past challenge, lessons learned. Think about how going through that, it's changed your life, given you a different perspective. Maybe, maybe it's questioned your values and your beliefs. So write about what happened, any reframes that you had to do, that sort of thing. Next, it's about, well, I've learned all of that. And if I were to teach that to somebody else, what is my best advice? So 3 parts to that. Give yourself 20 minutes. You don't have to write War and Peace. It really is just to, do a really, really quick dump. And I've got something that goes with this a little bit later on. Creative life writing. I absolutely love creative life writing. And what I've done is I've created an exercise for you, which makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to think about the prompts. But creative life writing is where you get a set of prompts and you're writing, I'm going to call it, is it factional? So it's a bit of fiction, all kind of tied in with a bit of fact. Because what happens is all novels are based on the writer's experience. It is, that's how we draw our inspiration. So what will happen with the creative life writing exercise is that you will work with your imagination, but the learning comes in the reflection. So here the invitation is you choose one thing from each section and then find some writing time and reflect. So it might seem like a bit of an odd exercise, but it's absolutely fantastic. And what you will get out of it at the end, although it is fictional, is you will get great learning about yourself. Now, I started creative life writing. I was going through a very, very dark period, and I found that the best way to move past this was to write these little creative life writing exercises. It was a dark period. Most of the people who had done things to me came to a sticky end. But when I look through, I can see just how super helpful writing in this, it was so incredibly freeing. So I hope that this kind of thing works for you as well. Again, set yourself a timer, set yourself for 20 minutes. So write down, watch each of the screens and just write one of the prompts down. They are in your workbook. Who is the protagonist? So choose one of these. So there's a couple. Pick your protagonist. So just scribble that down. The next part is, where is your story going to start? So we have our protagonist. Pick one of those. Tell I'm British, Paddington Station. You could choose any station. So pick where it's going to start. Next, what is the opening scene? Now, I love all of these because these are often a test of our values and our beliefs, and it's kind of interesting where your imagination takes you. I mean, I'm sure if you'd seen an old lady getting a bag snatched, you would go chasing after the person who did it. I certainly would. Not sure I'd leap on them, but maybe that's what I'd have to do. Yeah. When does it happen? In the past, on a particular special day, sometime in the future, seasonal? When does it happen? And all of our stories are motivated by something. So, what made the character, your protagonist, act? And maybe what is the key emotion that's attached? And in your workbook, there's a lot more of these. So pick one. We've got lots of different prompts now. Okay, so with each of the prompts, just ground and breathe, just connect into yourself, smile and have some fun. Write your story. Let it go. So what I often do is when I've got all my prompts written down, I might go for a walk, because when I go for a walk, my imagination goes, oh, I could do this and I could do that. And then I'll come back and I'll write it. So when you've finished your story, go back and read it and reflect on how it's unfolded. I promise you, you will learn something about yourself in that story. When you read it back, it might not be immediately, it might be 3 days later, it might be when you go for your next walk and you'll go, oh, that's how I sort that out. Oh, that's what that means. It is super, super powerful. So when you've read it all back and you've got the bit, what did you learn about yourself? Journal about that. Deeply, deeply insightful. I promise you'll love it. It is such fun. The next part is if this were a book. So with the Healing Book Project, the reason that I put the prompts in, if this were a book, is when you go through your monthly workbooks and you think about how might I teach somebody else this, you think about what you've learned as if it were a book. So remember that we did the writing exercises. We had some challenges, we overcame some stuff. We looked at how our perspective was changed. And I asked the question, how would you teach that to others? Again, just stick a timer on 20 minutes and write this as if it were a chapter in a book, as if you were going to teach somebody. Now, books for me are mostly self-help where my story is in it, or transformational journal, which is based on my story, and I do not share anything personal. So you might do this as sharing your story and your learning as if it were a chapter in a book. You might write this, in fact, you might write it as a piece of memoir, or you might write it as a transformational journal. You do this, and this. So set yourself a timer and think about if this were in a book of yours and someone was reading it, they would understand what it was about, why they needed to read this particular thing, how to do it, and then the benefits, the outcome that they would get. So what else? What else is the reflection piece? So at some point, go back through your journal and have a read of it. I don't do it every week, but every once in a while, I'll just sit there with a cup of tea and my ginger biscuits, and I will read back through. You will find patterns and themes. You will find things that you thought, drat, I thought I dealt with that. And you can see repeated patterns of behavior and things that you haven't dealt with. And what is lovely about this is, there's a certain level of being open and being vulnerable, but you need to be honest. So when you go back and go, yep, did it again. Oh, did it again. Write and reflect. Think about how you might reframe that, how you might look at it from a different perspective. If you do a lot of, I can't do that. I can't do it. I really should, but I can't. Turn the can'ts to cans and look at the shoulds and say, what if I did? Or what if I didn't? So just really enjoy the process of going back and going, oh, I did it again. And write it in such a way that you want to reframe the patterns that you find and find a way to move beyond what it is that you are discovering about yourself. Reflections are immensely powerful. I don't think we reflect enough as a society. We just keep moving. And this is an invitation to stop, to come into a space and to just reflect on stuff that in our journal that we've written on, to find solutions and inspirations for moving forward. So how do we turn our journals into books? So you need to think about, what is the kind of book you want to write? Self-help with your story or a transformational journal? So when you think about these books, you need to think about themes. Is it self-love, self-confidence? Is it moving through trauma? What? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be about a healing subject. It might be something to do with travel or cookery, or you might, when you have been writing about recipes, recipes might evoke certain emotions. So think about the type of book that you want to write. Now, pretty much of everything I do is around healing. So mine are always healing themes. You've got to think about how, when you've got that theme, you need to think about what's the outline. So an outline is simply do this, do this, do this, do this. So if you look at any book, it's broken down into chapters. There's your outline. Organize your entries. So you're going back through your journal and going, well, where would each of these things go? Now, I find using post-it notes to do that kind of thing immensely helpful. So if I have an outline up, I'll have post-it notes up, or I'll get a big roll of brown wrapping paper and I'll write my outline down, usually start with post-it notes. And then I'll start to organize my entries and make little notes about where various things would go. Once you've done that, at some point, you're going to have to write. And you need to take breaks in between writing and editing. So you do the writing process, leave it, come back to it, and then you start editing. At some point, you're going to get to the point where you're sick of seeing it on the screen. And there's loads of different ways to edit. I always get a cover designed, upload it onto Amazon's KDP, and you'll get a book back. You order a proof copy and it's got a band on it. Read your book as if it were a journal. Yeah, and then you're going to find that stuff is missing, you've waffled a bit, some of it doesn't make any sense. You might want to add some additional content. So, there's a process that you go through. What you might also like to do is, once you've gone through your first draft, is get like a second or a third draft and work with a group of people, beta readers, to get some better feedback, which can then be incorporated into our books. We have something called unconscious competence. If I asked you to make a cup of tea, you'd probably say, go to the kettle, turn it on, get a cup. No, we have to physically move there. We have to look at the kettle. Does it have enough water? Then we have to lift the lid. Then we have to go to the water bottle or the tap, or, however it works in your house. There's lots and lots of steps, and we forget how to do it. Like when I was in school, we had to wear a tie. I'm not sure I know how to tie a tie now, but we just did it. Tying our shoelaces, we just do it. So it's always useful to work with other people, because we have unconscious competence. We forget, we miss things out. Then go and do some professional editing. You will need to work out how to design the interior of your book. You will need a cover designer for your cover, publishing options, so digital. You're going to put it on Amazon, you're going to put it on somewhere like Lulu. Where are you going to publish it? Market and promote, launch and celebrate. Now, I've made it all sound terribly easy. It does take time, but this is a process, and you can create a wonderful book out of your journals. And if you want to make this, I'm going to say easier, produce a transformational journal as your first book without, don't put your story on, base it on your story and your experiences, but use it as a teaching product, something you can do masterclasses and courses. If you're a counselor, a therapist, a coach, you can use it in your coaching sessions. It's going to help you reach people who perhaps can't afford your coaching or counseling at the moment. So transformational journal is going to be a whole lot easier and quicker than a big self-help book, but obviously your choice. But you can do all of this from the content that's in your journals. So if you were going to write a book without thinking, just write the first thing that comes into your head and then just leave it and then come back later on and journal around it. And it's very curious what comes up. The title of your book might actually be something that's going on in your life, or it might actually be the working title of your book. Just want to talk a little bit about the Healing Book Project. So the Healing Book Project is here for people who want to work with prompts and writing exercises and reflections, as we've just done. So I have a writing to heal process, and every month there will be a workbook that is produced that is based on a particular theme. So the first workbook is called Identity and Origins, and it goes way, way back and looks at how all of those things have kind of created us, made us who we are. So there's a lot of transformational outcomes that come out of using the monthly workbook. So there's two things with the Healing Book Project. You can just purchase the workbooks. They're available as PDF. They will eventually go onto Amazon as small journals like this that you can work through. And there is the Healing Book community. And in there, you're going to get your workbook. There will be writing circles, so you actually sit and write. They won't be recorded. We'll get a chance to do feedback, talk to other people. Deeply, deeply powerful, very, very a sanctuary for getting to know ourselves a lot better. There will be masterclasses on different subjects where you can come and learn something. And in the group, in the community, there will be a lot of support. So that's the Healing Book Project. And I will let you know more about that as it unfolds. And, if you've got any questions, just drop me a line and I can talk you through what you're going to get out of that. So each of the workbooks, I'm not going to go through all of this, but you can see I've combined writing exercises with reflection. There are some psychological tools that I use. So I go and look at different kinds of theories and see how that applies to that month's subject. So that takes you just a little bit deeper. We look at spiritual stuff. There's breath, mindfulness, movement, that lovely, lovely creative life writing. And if this were a book. Now, you might be looking at it going, there is no way that I could do all of that in a month. You don't have to. What I've done is I've pulled lots of stuff together so that whoever opens up the book goes, do you know what I want to do? I'm going to start with the mandala. I'm going to practice a bit of breath work. Oh, I love the creative life writing. I'm going to do a daily prompt for a week, and I'm going to do if this were a book, and that's it. And then sometime later on, they'll come back to it and go, oh, I'm going to have a look at that thing about attachment theory. I have put this together. You are not obligated to do anything. It's looking at it and going, what do I fancy doing this month? And this month it might just be, I'm going to do the writing exercises and the bit that says if this were a book. That's it. So the first one of these will be available on the 10th of June. If you're watching this after the 10th of June, and you go to my website, you will see a series of workbooks and you will see the Healing Book Project. And for me, this is a really, really special project because I would love people to write to heal and then write to heal and inspire other people. And often often we find ourselves desperately wanting to write a book and do something and not being able to. And this project is going to help you do that. So that's me. I'm Dale. You can find me at daledileague.com. I'm all over social media. Do come and connect with me. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And I thoroughly hope that you have enjoyed doing this, all these different exercises and using the workbook. I do have a group on Facebook called the Soul Writers Lounge. Do come and find me, come and join. And look forward to seeing you then, and maybe somewhere on social media, and hopefully inside the Healing Book Project.